Hi everyone, my name is Lisa Kirkendale. I'm calling from the lab, a busy hive of activity here at Bush Blitz out in the Kimberley. I'm the curator of mollusks and head of aquatic zoology at the Western Australia Museum. And I hear you have a few questions, so I'm here to answer one of them. Somebody asked what the biggest snail was, how big it actually got. And the biggest snail in the world is a marine snail, so not a freshwater or a land snail. It's actually found in the ocean, and it can be about 70 centimeters. I mean, maybe it gets up to a meter, but I think 70 centimeters is a pretty good bet. And it's called Syrinx arowanus, and it's a type of conch. And it's found in different places in Australia, so we're lucky to have it in our country. And it ranges from Western Australia on the west coast all the way up over the top of Australia, even into Indonesia, and then over, I think, to probably northern New South Wales or Queensland. Yeah, so it's this beautiful big snail. People have really enjoyed it and like to put it in their collections, so sometimes it's a little bit over collected in some places. So important to kind of leave it when you find it, because it often is a home for hermit crabs after it's died. And one of the fun facts I like about it is its mode of reproduction, so how it reproduces. And it makes these beautiful big kind of egg cases that are almost like plasticky, but really convoluted and interesting. And they wash up in storms after the female lays them on the bottom in a big storm. It'll dislodge the egg case, it'll wash up on shore, and people will beach walk and find them. And then they call us at the museum and ask what it is that they've found. And the cool thing about these egg cases is that inside are little baby syrinx. We call them syrinx or horse conchs. So they get to this big, but they start out life like this big. And they were just really precious. And I think you see them on the reef, and you see fewer than you used to. But you know, overall, they're a beautiful part of the environment, and we're lucky to have them in our country.
My name is Mark Harvey. I'm curator of arachnids at the Western Australian Museum in Perth. So your question was about what's the most dangerous scorpion, maybe in Australia, maybe that was the question. Well, there are several different sorts, and scorpions can be divided into those with really big fat claws and some with really thin claws. Those thin-clawed ones are called marble scorpions, and they're the most dangerous in Australia. But they're not so dangerous that they can kill you, but the sting's really, really painful. I've been stung by them, and it's worse than a bee sting, but the ones with the fat claws, less painful than a bee sting. So steer away from all scorpions because they can sting. At the moment, there's about 40 or 50 described species described in the scientific literature, but we know of probably 100 new species that haven't been described yet. So there's quite a lot here in Australia.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Wilson. I'm an arachnologist and I'm here in the Kimberley on Bush Blitz. My specialty are my gallimorph spiders, which are all of these large, strongly built spiders that live in holes in the ground. Some of them dig the holes themselves. Other ones find existing gaps in embankments and things and go in there and make silk to line the hole. But all of them live in these permanent retreats.
The spider will be 10 to 15 centimeters down into the embankment, and the hole and the door allows the spider to control the microclimate within the burrow and keep the humidity nice and the temperature nice. Even though it's hot outside, it's probably perfect for the spider inside that burrow. It also gives them a place to ambush little ants and things that walk past. They can jump out and grab them directly from the burrow, so it's a good little ambush platform as well. So that's why a lot of these spiders make these burrows, because it's defense, its microclimate, and it's a good spot to ambush prey.
So a lot of people want to know how many types of spiders there are, with mygalomorph spiders, the ones that I work on, often when we start working on a new group, we find that about 10% of the species in the particular group are actually described. So that means only 1 in 10 has a name already. So there's a lot of the diversity in these species, in these spiders, that still needs to be described, and that's why we do things like this. We go out, we find these new species, and then we have to take them back to the museums and study them and figure out exactly where one species occurs and where the other does and how they're different, which is looking at their morphology, the way their physical appearance. And then eventually we write a paper and we describe exactly how you can tell all these different species apart, and then they get a name. And that allows them to then be protected and to go into conservation planning and things like that.
Okay. My name's Mark Hutchinson. I'm from the South Australian Museum. I've retired, but I still work there as an honorary scientist, and the animals I study are reptiles and frogs. So people have asked, what's the most dangerous snake up here in the Kimberley? And when I'm asked questions like that, they're very hard to answer, because really there are several snakes up here that are all quite dangerous if they were to bite you. And so there isn't a most dangerous snake, but there are several snakes that are either dangerous because they inject a lot of venom, or they inject a very poisonous venom, very toxic venom. And those snakes up here are the mulga snake, western brown snake, the death adder, and there's also another one called the dwarf or pygmy mulga snake, which is a smaller relative of the big one. But those 4 are the 4 dangerous snakes in the Kimberley, and all of them, if they bit you and you didn't get any help, there is some chance that you might die. But these days, of course, with helicopters and flying doctor services, it's a very unusual thing, but still there can be serious bites where you have to go to hospital, and these are the snakes that do it.
I'm Nick Tatarnik, Curator of Entomology at the Western Australian Museum, and I study true bugs. One of the groups of bugs I study are called assassin bugs, and these insects, they're predators. They walk around in the bush, and they hunt other insects, and they use their stabbing mouthpart to stab the other insect and suck the juices out of it. So they're pretty cool. A lot of them are specialists on ants. There's a group of them out here that use sticky resin from other plants, and they cover their arms with it, and then they use that to slam their arms down on ants and stick them down so they can eat them. Australia, we think there are about 200 or 300,000 insect species, and we've only described about 60,000 of them. So we've described maybe 25% of the insects in Australia. For the true bugs, we've described about 2,500 species, and we think that there's at least twice as many of those, maybe 3 or 4.